Alright guys, so we're going to take a look at our first game here with SimicTron. This is going to be a matchup against a blue-white reality acid deck, a little bit of an altered one, probably not as efficient as it probably should be due to the changes made by my opponent here. Opening hand there you see no lands, got to change it away. This land we do get a couple of lands, piece of Tron. Green is not the ideal thing, we'd rather have an island there. But we're going to keep it anyways, because we are on the play, so we're not going to be able to make up the ground lost here as fast as we usually could. So we're going to keep it, put down forest, pass the turn. Opponent is going to start off with a Bone Splitter, which actually led me to believe that this was going to be White Weenie, and I was feeling pretty good about that fade away against White Weenie, but it's not going to actually work out as well as I had hoped. So Expedition Map's going to come out. We are missing our third land drop here on turn 3. At the very least, the Expedition Map is going to enable us to find that third land. Unfortunately, we're probably going to have to crack this in favor of an island so that we can play any of these other spells in our hand. So islands start coming out with my opponent. I wasn't entirely sure what it was with the Rift Watcher coming down here, but definitely a worser, is that a word? A more rogue, a less refined version of Reality Acid due to some of these card choices. And there are some things that I think even Shafa would admit can be changed around. I think the use of Spreading Seas is something that may be altered despite the fact that it is a cantrip, but I will leave that discussion for him. Whether or not you feel this particular matchup will be competitive enough, I just have to include it because it is absolutely hysterical. Not necessarily for bad play or anything like that, just the ability of the Tron lands is really just ridiculous once it really gets going, once you get those pieces online. So the client, there we go. So yes, we don't draw on turn 4 a third land, have to crack Expedition Map in favor of an island here. And we're going to get that down into play. I'm looking to possibly fade away on the next turn, though it's not going to be as effective at this point in time due to the fact that he's got open mana, he's got plenty of lands and other permanents and stuff he could sacrifice to it. So instead we're going to take this land we just drew, throw out a Serrated Arrows. Not, again, going to work very well against Aven Rift Watcher. The Rift Watcher is going to die anyways, and the Bone Splitter is going to kind of make up for whatever -1/-0, or I'm sorry, -1/-1 counters that we do put on it. Sorry, take a drink there, my voice seems to be dying out on me. Reality Acid's coming down. It's going to attempt to remove the Serrated Arrows. Definitely a better play if he does have the bounce, which it does seem he does. Something I think other players do not realize, because if he had left that in without having the bounce available, I have the opportunity to Ghostly Flicker and just completely negate the overall effectiveness of that Reality Acid. So Rift Watcher going to come in, start doing significant damage, and again, don't have much going on. Going to attempt a fadeaway here, see if we can't reduce permanence at the very least, now that he is all tapped out. Does choose to get rid of the Rift Watcher. Again, not a very good card at that point in time. It's much better against larger aggro strategies, things like goblins and the like. Sorry. Bone Splitter going on to the Dreamstalker, going to keep that beatdown coming, and Reality Acid on my 1 Tron piece. And this is kind of where you're going to see the fact that he is not able to return it in the same turn. I can use Ghostly Flicker. I try and rebalance my mana base because I have mana available. I can use Ghostly Flicker to save my mine, and also keep mana available to use Condescend. Even if it's just for 2, and my opponent does have significant amounts of mana, it's still going to give us an opportunity that we may not have had otherwise. So he attempts to play the Muldrifter, and this is where that tapping of my mana to correctly account is going to pay off. Reveals here a mine and a power plant. I'm going to throw the mine at the bottom, going to put the other one at the top. That gives me a second piece to my Tron. I don't really need a bunch of land. It's going to at least hit my 5-drop, and I can put down Mnemonic Wall. Mnemonic Wall is going to provide a good barrier. We're getting really low on life, and at the very least I can return a permanent from hand. Now usually you want to, let's open a graveyard here real quick, usually you want to return a Ghostly Flicker, but because we already have another one in hand, I opted to instead go for Condescend. I felt I could get a little more utility. As it stands right now, a 3 attack power on this Stalker is not big enough to get past this wall, so there's other things that I would rather just counterspell and not have to worry about. Like if that Muldrifter was going to stick, it would be something that I really wanted to keep instead. Does Ghostly Flicker, it's going to allow him to draw 2 extra cards there, keep that Muldrifter in play, something that unfortunately is going to be all kinds of troublesome because while this wall can block all day, it does not have flying and cannot actually handle that 2 damage in the air. Decent cards in hand. I mean, we have the Crusher can come out. Ghostly Flicker here is going to give us an opportunity to draw some extra cards, maybe if we get some draw engine online. Oblivion Ring's coming, he knows we have Condescend, so he's probably just drawing out the counterspell. I'm going to make the play anyways. I decided to put the map on the bottom and the prism on top. The map could help us find that last piece. I really wanted the prism, however, I was going to instead, while Karavek's Torch does provide us a significant win condition, what it's actually going to be doing at this particular time is I'm going to use that prism, and I'm going to use the Karavek's Torch to burn the Muldrifter. Really kind of a terrible play, the fact that you have to do that, but with the walls and the Ghostly Flickers, we got opportunity in the later game to get it back if we do need it. So Prism's going to come down, and I get an awesome top deck here into Urza's Tower. That's going to give us great opportunity to cast not only the Karavek's Torch with just 1 land, it gives us that chance to leave mana available for the Ghostly Flicker later on, and we can avoid the damage. You see now that he has this Javelineer on the battlefield, if he attacks with the Bone Splitter plus the damage from the Javelineer, it will give fatal damage to this wall, and it would finally clear it off. By blocking with that, he may find himself in that situation where he uses it, and then I can flicker to avoid the damage and return the flicker to get that back, draw even a card off the prism. He puts out a reality acid, so we're going to assume that he has the answer. I could have chosen to flicker at that point in time. I did decide that I wanted to instead do it in response to the Stalker. I'm not sure this was the right play in retrospect. It will keep our wall from dying to reality acid, but it gives him an opportunity to do an extra point of damage if he wants on the Javelineers. It gives him an opportunity to use that Dreamstalker ability to return itself to his hand, so he has an option later on. But it is good for us now. He does have 2 copies of Reality Acid in his graveyard, and there's actually quite a few lists that only run 3 copies, so that puts us in a pretty good position to at least dodge that approach. So he actually oddly decides to return a land. I guess he is going to attempt the killing of this wall, with the combination of the Stalker and the Javelineer. So I guess that's a decent play on his part. I do feel that I have to do it now that I'm down to 5 life, even though I do not have the mana available for Flicker. And he does kill it off there. Again, it would have been a similar play, I think, if he took that Javelineer in response to the Dreamstalker, did 1 damage to the wall before attacking, and then returned the Javelineer. He could have put it back in hand. He does have this other Dreamstalker here. He is going to at least get another use out of it, but I think it's just kind of an inefficient use. So we're going to put out Prism here. No real blockers available to us just yet. Probably going to have to use the Ulamog's Crusher. That's going to be an okay blocker right now. Anything if he does decide to attack is going to die to that Crusher unless he has an answer for it. Ghostly Flicker is going to help us protect it. What it can also do is help us avoid this ability on the Crusher that forces it to attack. We can use, and it's going to be a one-trick pony at this point, but we can use the Ghostly Flicker on the Crusher to give it Summoning Sickness and keep it from attacking. At this point, he's got plenty of lands, plenty of permanents to sacrifice to the Annihilator. It's not going to hurt him that much. Does decide to attack through. He does have enough damage. Even after that one dies, it's going to put me at 2 life with this Javelineer. So, and now he's going to play Stonehorn Dignitary, which actually, again, helps us out a lot more than I think he realizes, because the Crusher is forced to attack. If it's forced to attack, he takes 8. He's at 24. He can easily take 8, and then I would be dead. But because he kind of does that, it helps us out. We can keep the Flicker back. And I think even at end of turn there, I probably should have... I think I had the mana open. If I had the mana open, I should have used Flicker just to get these prisms going. We have a wall. It would have given us an opportunity to get it back later on, but we do top deck into that wall. Going to use it to get Torch back. Torch is going to give us opportunity to clear things off his board. The less stuff on his board, the less that can attack, less we have to block. So we're going to tap out here. We're going to choose the opportunity to get rid of one of the stalkers. Kind of takes away a piece of his combo. It's also the highest toughness, so it's the hardest to get rid of. Might as well get rid of it now while we had the mana available. And we're still going to have 3 mana left over to use Ghostly Flicker later on to protect things, to draw cards. So attaching the Bone Splitter here forces me to block that particular one. Kind of an odd choice to attack, I believe, because I can chump block 1. I'm only taking a point of damage. I guess if he makes another creature play here, then he is looking pretty good. Which he's going to reattach the Bone Splitter and does not have another play, so I'm going to use this extra mana at end of turn. And I'm going to be able to draw a single card and get the Ghostly Flicker back. So it's, you know, basically like an Una's Grace. So on the draw there, get a Muldrifter, which is going to be great. Draw into another Tron land. Drifter's going to go down, provides us with yet another blocker because of the fact that our Crusher has to attack this turn, unless we decide to Ghostly Flicker it. Something we're not going to do until after combat. You wait till after combat so that the Annihilator does go on the stack, and he does have to sacrifice permanents. Does choose to get rid of Bone Splitter. Again, I think if he had a second creature play there, that was a smart move to attack, but otherwise he needed to play it a little bit more defensively. And it's going to cost him in the end. Mana up here, I'm going to take the opportunity to put out Serrated Arrows, get rid of this Javelineer, just so he has no options to return it and get that additional point of damage at any point. You know, I'm at 1 life here. By keeping these guys off the field, I mean, the Javelineer can do it. I can sit here and block for days and not die this 1 life. If he puts out a new Javelineer, it's not going to do anything because of the fact that it's going to have Summoning Sickness and can't activate. He's just in a really bad spot, not going to be able to do that 1 damage. Not really sure why he's attacking through either. But we're going to simply block, and end of turn, we have mana available. We can use Ghostly Flicker. This time around, it's going to be a much better choice to use the Ghostly Flicker on, obviously, the Muldrifter, and get it back with our wall. We're going to draw an extra card than we would with the Prism. And what we draw there actually is another Ghostly Flicker, which is great. That gives us an opportunity to flicker a wall, and we don't have to return Ghostly Flicker. When you only have 1 flicker, you're going to want to flicker a wall to get a flicker. I'm confusing myself. But with the extra one, we can not worry about it. Same thing happens if you have a second wall. You don't have to use it on the ability on flicker. We're going to get back Karavek's Torch this time around. Gives us a nice finisher with the land we have available. Also will help us clear off the board if we want. Depending. I think, did I have the mana for this? 7, 3 is 10, 12. No, I didn't have enough mana to finish him off this turn. No, wait, 7, 10, 12, 14. Yeah, I did. If he didn't have a flyer. So, I guess this is a bit of misplay on my part. I should have tried to Karavek Torch him for 14 and then swing with the Muldrifter. And that would have been game over there if he had no answer. 1 card in hand, odds are good he does not. That's alright though. He's going to block there. Really not a lot of options. Going to go through and preordain, and we do find another Torch, which we're going to put on top. And we can keep that for use on later turns. Even if he can sit here and chump all day, we're going to still get a significant amount of mana generation going and get that Torch done. So this is going to be game over, and like I said, this is probably not the most competitive altar of the Reality Acid deck, but I think it's a really great example of how the Tron deck can get things going. It doesn't have the same ability to stabilize that we saw with Glimmerpost, but once you get the Tron lands going, you get the mana available, and you have you're in blue. I think blue is really going to be a significant advantage for the Tron decks, because you can get this heavy draw going, get the Muldrifters, start comboing off Ghostly Flicker, which everyone is so upset about, and Mnemonic Wall, and you can draw those cards, you can find what you need to win the games, and I think that will really provide you with a significant advantage there. Alright, so we're going to move into a second game here with the SimicTron. Opening hand is pretty good. 2 Tron pieces. We have an island. We have Expedition Map to find the third. We have the turn 1 Preordain. We also have Prophetic Prism on turn 2. So definitely going to keep it, and I decided to start out with Preordain as opposed to Expedition Map. We don't have a Crusher. If we had a Crusher, then I would want to get that Tron base online as soon as possible. So we're going to take it a little bit slower. Ghostly Flicker I'm going to throw to the bottom because we didn't have a wall here, so I would rather have extra draw, just on the off chance that we can't really get things going. On the opening hand, again, I think we talked about this earlier, as soon as you see Probe, that's something that used to be ran by Delver, now it's something you can almost exclusively find in Eye Candy. And that is going to be what this matchup is. And again, I think that's a pretty hard matchup because one of the things that Tron has going for it against aggro is the fact that it can put out these creatures and block for days, and it can jump on walls and stuff like that. But as soon as you face Eye Candy, that deck has a serious advantage because of the fact that it has so many ways to make creatures evasive in different ways, whether it's shadow or just simple unblockable. So it's going to be a bit of an issue. Probably going to have to use Karavek's Torch to kill off things like the Cyclops and the Kiln Fiend. One of the things that this deck really suffers from is the fact that if you can have your Kiln Fiend and Cyclops killed off, those are only 8 cards out of 60, so you can dig and find a new one, but it's going to be a lot harder for you to win the game. So drawn to another Tron piece, but not the one we needed. Going to have to, at this point in time, resort to our Expedition Map to find that last piece and generate that extra mana that we're going to need. Kiln Fiend does come down. He is tapped out, so we don't have to worry about Apostle's Blessing here. Going to be able to use Karavek's Torch. We have the Prism in play, and we can get rid of that just right away. Made all the more possible by the fact that we still have 5 mana left over. So after we torch that Kiln Fiend, we can draw cards. And you kind of hope at that point in time, despite the fact that he's dug through his deck quite a bit, that he does not have another combo piece there. Plenty of land available to him to play either. Another card draw there off of the Probe. Works out really well for him because we're not a fast aggressive deck. He can easily pay that life. And you see he does get Cyclops down with a mana open. And this is a very tough situation to be in. Put down Urza's Tower. Now, if you look at the situation, you're sitting on 11 mana. To play the wall and torch the Cyclops, you're going to need 5 for the wall and 5 for the torch. So we have plenty of mana available to it, but what I was concerned about is this 1 mana. The deck does run Apostle's Blessing, which will give it protection. It will keep it alive and kind of waste the play. Maybe, in hindsight, I should have chanced it anyways. I also had option there for Capsize. If I wanted to, but again, 1 mana open just kind of screams Apostle's Blessing. I think the fact that this deck is so strong and so fast that you kind of have to take that chance, you may have to gamble that he doesn't have the Apostle's Blessing. A little bit difficult because he does have 6 cards in hand, and so you just imagine the odds are pretty bad. I decided instead my attempt to slow him down was going to be Entwine, Reap, and Sow and get rid of this Boilerworks. That I figured might slow him down. It puts him at 2 mana, and he's going to be not so great off. So then we use the remaining mana to cast the wall, get back the torch, which we can use next turn if he taps out on the Cyclops. Again, with only 2 mana, you're assuming there's a lot of opportunity for him to completely tap out or to not have enough mana available to pump the Cyclops enough to do 20 damage. I mean, we haven't taken any damage at this point in time. He needs to get the perfect draw here, and he actually does. Cyclops is off. He does Ponder. He finds the 3rd land. He gets the Artful Dodge. He makes it unblockable, and with the red, he has enough left for Assault Strobe, which bumps it to 10 and will have Double Strike, which is just absolutely brutal. So he needed kind of the ideal setup, and he managed to get it. I did ask him before letting this damage go through if he got the cards he needed. He said he found it right off the Ponder. So that Ponder definitely top decked him into exactly what he needed to win. So I don't know. This is such an interesting game to me because I think SimicTron here stabilized really well. I mean, we got the mana base together relatively fast. It's only turn 5 that we lost here. I mean, consider that turn 5 we had the Tron base online. We had 2 extra pieces and the island, so you're looking at a significant amount of mana. You have 2 prisms to change the color. I think the deck performed very well. I think it had a good chance of holding up here if we could chump block with the wall, if we could only take some damage off the Cyclops. We had 2 options to deal with it in hand. And I feel like even though this was a really fast loss, it was still a what's the word I'm looking for? A highlight or a significant performance by this deck. It shows that there is some viability, at least in my mind, for some kind of Tron base to work out.